we're just going to get started. So it's a couple of us EWEBers and Jeremy Nissel's with us and David DiLorenzo and yourself. So we have a small group, so we'll keep it super informal tonight. You know, this is one of 4 meetings that we have scheduled. Hold on a second, I'm admitting one more person. Hi, Vanessa, this is Janine with EWEB, and you're in the E40th neighbor meeting. Can you hear us? And Jim has joined. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, great. We are just about to get started. I wanted to thank folks for trying out the Teams format. We know that it might be a little clunky with the technology, and we'll just kind of work our way through it. We're hoping that this is a convenient way for us to share information as we get closer to construction, but we also know that this might be not the best format, and we're willing to give it a try. We thank you guys for giving it a try, and if it doesn't work, we'll do something different. So what's most important to us is that we are sharing information that's timely and useful to you. If you haven't used the Teams function before, the thing that helps the most is to try to put yourself on mute, because otherwise there's a lot of feedback. And so we'll be able to hear you, but you'll also hear our voices reverberating. So the mute button is the thing that looks like a mic. And if you click on and off it, it will mute and unmute you. So you might give that a try just to test it out and see if that kind of helps your experience and helps you hear better. So like I said, I'm Janine Parisi. I work for EWEB, and I'm joined by a number of my other EWEB colleagues who you're likely familiar with because we've met you through prior on-site meetings. You've heard from us through email communications and newsletters, and in some cases we've talked on the phone or we've visited you at your homes. So our agenda tonight features Laura Farthing. She's our project manager, and she'll be bringing us up to speed on the project. And that includes some site preparation timelines that we think are really important and some access changes we want you to know about. And then Jen Connors will walk us through some upcoming opportunities for neighbor input on things like construction mitigation and re-landscaping plans. We plan to have plenty of time to take questions. I anticipate that Commissioner Borofsky will be joining us as well. I haven't seen him on the call, but we'll make sure we let him in and he can say hi to you all as well. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys taking the time to join us in a virtual format. What the agenda will be pretty simple tonight. What we're going to do is, well, I want to let you know that we are recording this meeting. That's one of the advantages about virtual meetings is we can record it and then we can share it with folks who didn't make it tonight. So that is one advantage. So just wanted to let you know that we are recording it. And we have just a very short presentation followed by Q&A and next steps. And since there's only a few of us, if you know how to use the hand raise function and you want to jump in with a question, or if you're on camera and I can see you, you want to raise your hand, feel free to do that. Otherwise, we'll just let Laura get through her slides and we'll just make sure everyone gets a chance to comment and ask questions then. So either way works for me. It's a small group and we'll just get through it as best we can. Mostly, we want to hear from you and just make sure you have the most up-to-date information. So with that, I will kick it off to Laura. Thank you for your patience in case we have any technical difficulties. And we'll just look for your feedback for helping improve these sessions over time. It's important to us that you get timely information so that you can get the information that you need to make plans moving forward and that we can be responsive to your questions and concerns. So Laura, let's jump in.
Thanks, Jane. So we thought we'd start just by giving a recap of the tank siting criteria and how we ended up with the tank placement that we ended up with. And remind everybody the water surface has to be at an elevation of 607 feet. We wanted to minimize the amount of rock excavation that we had to do. That helps to make the project go faster. It also keeps costs down. We had to look at how we connect into the existing water system, which is down on East 40th. We wanted to preserve the ridge line, and we also wanted to preserve as much of the oak habitat as we could. That really put us onto the north half of the property. The yellow area is really the only place on the site the tanks could feasibly be placed. Do you want to flip the slide, Jen? So we took all of those criteria. We did a triple bottom line analysis, and we came up with the tank placement that you see in this figure here. That this really optimized the rock removal and made it so that we can make the project hopefully go faster, and it also saves the majority of the oak habitat. The group's so small, if you guys want me to slow down and say some more, but I'm assuming that we all have some background information, so you want to switch to the next slide, Jen? So this is a rendering of what the tanks will look like looking from the west to the east. David, you have a question?
I just wanted to make sure that this is not any different placement than when we met with you. That this is the same outline.
Correct. It is the same location that we presented in March. I should have said that. I'm sorry about that. So this is what it will look like standing on the west side of the property, looking towards the east. You can see that the tanks have berms around them. They'll be partially buried, and then we'll fully screen them with landscaping. And Jen will talk a little bit later about the public process and where the public will have input in that. And we included the next view just to show what it's going to look like from Patterson Street.
Laura, should we pause for a second? Did we welcome someone else to the meeting?
We did. This is Janine and Laura. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hi. You're in the meeting. If it's possible for you to mute your phone. We're getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, as long as you can hear us, we're just getting started with a little bit of a presentation.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's great.
It's a little bit echoey, but other than that, it's fine.
I'm going to mute my computer and hope that helps.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Laura.
And before Laura continues, could I just ask who joined the meeting? I can't see your name.
That's Dorothy Chase. I'm one of the neighbors on the peripheral of the lot being talked about for the reservoirs.
Yes, hi Dottie. I remember meeting you at one of the first meetings that we had. I'm glad you could join us.
Oh, hi there.
So as we were saying, the tank placement, it remains the same what we shared in March, and we are sharing the renderings of what they're going to look like. This is a view looking from Patterson towards the south. So what the tanks could potentially look like. As we said, neighbors will have input into the screening and landscaping around them. I think we included one last rendering looking from Spencer's Middle School. And so this is the view looking south looking north from the south side of the property. The dashed line shows where the ridge line is on the top of the property, and it also shows that you won't be able to see the tanks because the tanks are below that elevation. So when you're looking to the north from the south, there'll be very minimal impacts to the view shed.
Oh, I'm seeing. I can't see. I can't see. Can you?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, okay, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I don't know when to, I can't raise a hand or anything because nobody can see me. So, but I keep wondering from my property, what I would be able to see, or what, you know, in other words, how far is it from my property? And I'm on top of the hill, of a Hilliard.
Have you, there's stakes in the ground right now that show where the edge of the tank is. I'm not
No,
sure.
I haven't.
You haven't. I'm not sure of the exact distance, but it's more than 60 feet from the edge of the tank.
From the property, my property line,
Yes. Yep.
it's more than,
And I would
more than
be,
60 feet.
yep. And I'm more than happy because it's hard to, it's hard to, well, listen to a presentation that we're seeing visuals for. So if you'd like to meet, we're always happy to meet out there and talk about where the tanks are going to go and be able to show you in person if you'd like to set that up.
Okay, so I would call EWEB and just get you guys, you know. Okay.
Yeah, or I can reach out to you tomorrow too.
Yeah, if that works on my calendar.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
So we just wanted to recap the benefits of where we place the tanks and how we are sequencing the construction. So the tank placement, as I mentioned, we minimize the impact to the oak habitat. It requires the least amount of rock excavation, and it limits the viewshed impacts to the fewest number of neighbors. And then we also went through and did a triple bottom line analysis. We looked at environmental, economic, and social costs of building one tank now and one in the future, or building both tanks now. And there were some advantages to building both tanks now. One of the big ones is it allows us to replace the College Hill storage because that will be coming out of service. So it allows us to get 15 million gallons of seismically resilient, new, modern and robust storage into the system. Both to replace the 15 million gallons we're losing at College Hill, and it also allows us to get that storage constructed faster. It would have been a longer timeline before we had a full 15 million gallons. We save approximately $1.4 million by doing both tanks now. It allows for one single disruption to the site, so we'll be in and then eventually we'll be gone, and so we won't have to come back in, however many years and disrupt the whole site again. It limits impacts to Patterson Street because we won't have the heavy truck traffic going twice, and we eliminate 2,100 truckloads of material.
So you talked this is Dottie again. You talked about blasting, and you have rock and clay up there.
Correct. The rock removal require controlled drilling and blasting. And we will work with neighbors as we get closer to how that's going to work. And there's a whole series of safety measures and pre and post surveys that neighbors will be able to opt into to have done on their houses. And it will be heavily communicated before we start. And I will reiterate that with the controlled blasting, it's not like in the movies where dynamite's going off, fire in the hole, and rocks are going everywhere. Although, if it wasn't in the middle of the neighborhood, it would probably make for better watching. But we do leave the rock or the earth on top, and then they do the controlled drilling and blasting. They leave the overburden so that nothing, it's going to be very anticlimactic. You won't, it'll just be like a boop, and then that'll be done. So they drill a perforated grid across the site, and then they use dynamite in small amounts in each one of those little holes. So it doesn't blow it apart, it just kind of breaks apart the rock, and then you excavate it with the equipment.
Oh. Okay.
And we will be communicating our mitigation strategies and how the scheduling for all the pre and post surveys and what to expect. The blasting may be 1 or 2 days a week. It's not a continual event that happens. I'm sorry, there's a large truck driving by my house and it's very loud. Not very loud, it wasn't the right terminology, it was just distracting me in that moment, so.
Okay. Yeah.
David, you had a question?
Laura, how
Yes.
many truckload will you expect to be involved in the construction and removal of the dirt and debris?
The initial total count on truckloads was about 15,000.
15,000?
Yes. And that's spread out, you know, it's over the entire earthwork period, which can take up to a year.
Okay. So you're expecting 1 year of this digging and blood blasting and it'll happen in different time periods.
Yes. So, you know, I guess not quite a year. We're hoping to start tank construction and all the earthwork will done by next March. So a little bit less than a year. I guess that's what, 9 months?
Okay.
Time's moving differently with COVID.
Right.
And that's from today, so.
And in our meeting in the 10th and then the walkthrough, you had mentioned that you would be able to give us some sort of Gantt chart or some sort of timeline that will lay out when your expected blasting will occur. And you will, in addition to that, then let us know via email to expect that to happen.
Correct. And so the earthwork contract will be awarded in August, and then we'll have a contractor on site or under contract. And then that's when we'll develop the project schedules and the Gantt chart. I think we have another meeting scheduled late summer, early September would still be late summer. And then that's when we'll present that information because we'll have the real data to share when the blasting will be and how that work is going to be sequenced. We'll know then where trucks are going to be routed, what the traffic control plan will be, kind of what their estimated number of trucks per day will be.
Sorry, I keep having a number of questions, Laura. You know me so far. I'm a librarian, so I'm attentive to too many details that will drive me nuts. Look, on the tree removal process, when will that start and how long will it take?
Hey, look at that. It was the next slide.
All
Very
right.
Yay! Tree removal is anticipated to begin August 2nd. Again, we'll have a contractor that will be awarded at the July board meeting. That's when we'll have kind of their full duration. We're anticipating the work will take about 6 to 8 weeks in order to complete. You will see the fencing and the erosion control measures will be going in later in July. Right now, the fencing is set up so that everybody has a 10-foot buffer in between their property line and the construction fencing, so you can continue accessing the site if you happen to be bordering the site. And then the earthwork is anticipated to begin September 15th. And then we'll have more. We're having a meeting. I think we're having another one of these meetings at the end of July where we'll be able to share the full schedule with the Gantt chart and all the information we have for the contract from the contractor by then. It's out to bid right now. And then we are finding I guess in my opinion, good homes for the wood. We will be keeping as much on site as we can for habitat. And then we're donating some wood to some City of Eugene wetland restoration projects, so it'll remain habitat. And then we're also looking for opportunities to work on a historic structure renovation project with the City of Springfield. And then we're also talking to the Southeast Neighbors Association about some options of where to put some of the wood so that it stays within the local community. And then we're also looking at getting some benches made for the site, particularly out of older fir trees, to try to show some honor to them and keep some of that wood on the site.
Laura, did you want to mention mowing in terms of upcoming work? I think there's going to be some mowing work out at the site.
Yeah, we will be mowing. We let the site go this year in order to let the native seeds actually spread, to give the camas time to bloom and flower and do its thing, and the same with the fawn lilies. So we are going to mow. That's going to actually be happening next week. So the grass will be mowed again, and it will be shorter, and the site will be more accessible. Go for it. I'm glad you have questions. Otherwise, it's just like talking to no one.
Laura, someone in my neighborhood mentioned that when you cut down all these trees, it would change the dynamic of the wind. And I wondered if you have any information about that. That sounded more like an anecdote and facts based on logging and lumbering and all that stuff I don't know anything about. And I mean, look, the reason I'm worried about it is because in the 2016 ice storm, 8 trees fell on my house. So I am concerned about trees falling over, especially these Douglas firs that seem to fall over if you blow too hard.
Correct. So we've been working. I'm also not certainly not an arborist, but we have been working with a local arborist. And so you'll see, we minimize the number of trees that we need to remove, just pretty much to the footprint of the tank, but we are needing to take some trees out further than that, just for those very reasons. They're weaker, they're older. We believe they may become more susceptible to wind damage. And then there's some that it's just because of where their critical root zone is anticipated to be, but we're going to do some more testing on those before we take them. But we are taking that into account, and we are working with an arborist. Although the trees look healthy on the site, there are some with some pretty significant health issues that we are deeming as a safety risk. They're dying off. They have more than 30% of the tree dead. So we are looking into that, because you are correct. If you clear out a stand of trees, you can make the edge, what was once wasn't on the edge now is, and they become more susceptible to damage. So there will be some changes coming up. Once we start getting closer to the tree removal, you'll see the fencing will go up towards the end of July. It'll change and limit access throughout the site. So the trail that goes around the south side of the tank to the west, or if you're starting on the east side, that will be closed because it won't be safe for people to walk there. But we are going to maintain access to the summit and the very top of the property. And then you will be able to, as I said, the fencing will be kept 10 feet off of everybody's property line. So if you have a piece of property abutting it, you'll be able to access it somewhat from there. People on the eastern side, your access will change a little bit. And the main access to the site will be from E40th. During the tree removal, you can expect to hear, chainsaw noises. There'll be heavy equipment, and there'll be some log trucks. I'm still not sure on the sequencing of the log trucks. I'm not sure if they'll stockpile the wood and then just haul it all out more towards the end, but we'll be able to share more information about that in July. And then Patterson Street will remain open during this phase of the project, although there could be some traffic control that we put into place just for safety, just because of the big trucks driving down. I would show, I don't have, I was going to try to outline where the fencing was going to go, but I don't know that I can from here, or anyone could see it, so it might not be worth it. Jeremy, you have a question?
So Jeremy, you're going to have to unmute yourself. I muted you on my side to try to manage some of the feedback that I was hearing, but I can't unmute you on my side. You have to do it on your side. There you go. Thank you. We should be able to hear you, Jeremy. Go ahead. I don't know. I feel like whatever I did completely jinxed you, Jeremy. I'm so sorry. Oh, I think I heard something.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just looking at this picture here of the two tanks. They seem to be surrounded by trees. Is that a fiction of the landscape architect's mind, or is that really what it's going to look like? And if that is what it's going to look like, how long after the tanks are built will it look like that?
It is an architect's rendering of what the site could potentially look at. The trees that you see around the tanks are actually existing trees that are there now. There may be a few less than what you see, and then, you know, the lower shrubs around the tank, that is also, that's to show what the screening could potentially look like. We're required to landscape around these and maintain a complete visual screen with vegetation around them for the City of Eugene's code. And so it should look like that. We should be maintaining that. That'll be part of our regular maintenance. Whatever landscaping we put in has to be maintained forever.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Yep. David, did you hand up?
Yeah, you had mentioned berming the tanks. And could you say again, how tall will the tanks be above ground? And how tall will the berming be?
So the tanks themselves are 30 feet. The berming that you see here depicted, it leaves about 15 feet exposed. It kind of changes based on where you're at with the natural slope of the site, but that's the most wall that you'll see. So it'll be burned up to minutes. We're burning as much as we can in order to bury as much as the tank.
Do you have a sense yet of what the landscaping plants will be? Yeah.
No, we're planning on, we're going to kick off. Is that the next slide, Jen? At the end of the presentation, we're going to, kind of the next steps are here you go. We have some future tentative meetings that we've been laying out. The one in June, end of June, will be mainly to talk about construction mitigations, just to brainstorm about it and to get ideas from neighbors about things that you'd like to see, issues you're concerned about, so we can tailor the construction mitigation plan really to the needs of the community. The July meeting, that is where we'll start working with neighbors in order to get input on the landscape design. This is a long way to say, no, actually, I don't really have any idea how the site's going to look yet, because we're hoping to work with neighbors and community members in order to design that. And so that's really where you guys will have a lot of input in what you want the site to, how you want to move to the site, what you want it to look like. And so we'll start that process the end of July. And then, as I said, in September, we'll have the details for earthwork and blasting, and that's when we'll discuss the construction mitigation plan and come back to you then.
I was wondering if Jim or Vanessa, if you had any questions? You're welcome to just listen to. I just wanted to make sure if you had some comments or thoughts you wanted to share, you had an opportunity to do that. And Dottie, I think I did the same thing and I muted you. So I didn't realize that I can't unmute you on my end. So we will call you and set up a time to meet at your house at a convenient time and talk to you personally about what's going on and get your questions. I'm sorry that I didn't realize the power of my mute button.
This is why I like Zoom better. You have more control in Zoom, I think.
Yeah, now I'm not getting the feedback, but I ended up making it hard for people to talk back to us, which is not the intention. I feel really bad. I'm glad, Jeremy, you figured it out.
One of the things that we talked about doing is maybe sending out a short, just 2 or 3 question survey after this meeting about the meeting format. So we'll take a note that maybe Zoom would be a better tool. And then, if you have other thoughts about how we can get together, safely and conveniently for everyone, please look for that survey and share some input with us.
So
While we're
any
waiting to see if any other questions, I'll just jump in and make one more point. On the slide, the tentative meeting schedule, the last date of September 1st is different from what we shared in the email last week. So if you're putting placeholders on your calendar, update that one. These are still tentative, so again, we'll be in lots of communication as these meeting dates get closer to confirm the dates and times, but just wanted to point that out that one has already changed.
Well, look, thanks so much for putting this together. I really appreciate having the communication about the project, and I appreciate your time setting this all
Thanks
up.
for joining us, David. I appreciate it. We will send this presentation out to folks so that people who couldn't join us will be able to look at the slides and hopefully hear the conversation that we had tonight. I don't know how good the quality of the audio will be, but. Well, I think with that, we'll sign off for tonight. We'll look for a survey, see how to make these maybe a little bit more effective and accessible next time. And thanks for experimenting with us. We are, just trying as we go along. And what's most important to us is that you get the information you need, whichever format that is. So that's our goal, and we'll just keep working on that. So thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks again.